Have you been trying to get out of debt and haven't been able to? Do you need a plan or ideas on how to do that? Well, today we're going to be talking about that precise subject. My name is Silvia Escobar. Arturo and I are real estate agents. We have a real estate team, EscobarHomesTeam, with Keller Williams. And we love to do these monthly workshops where we get to invite someone who is an expert in an area that's going to be talking about things we didn't know. And you've heard me say that before. I love to empower people with information that they didn't know. When we know that we don't know it, we can always Google it, and we can find the answers. But when we don't know that we don't know, we don't even know what questions to ask. And so for that, Erick is going to be helping us today. And Erick, could you just tell us before we start who you are? Tell us a little bit about your family, what you do, and what are we going to be talking about today? And then you can just go ahead and go right into the workshop today.
All right. Well, thank you, Silvia, first and foremost, for having me on this, financial seminar, webinar. It's a great opportunity. And well, I want to start off with my name. My name is Erick Lucio. I'm actually a financial consultant. Both my wife and I have been working in the industry for quite some time. Me in particular, 7 years in the industry, and really, it's been a journey. It's been a journey being able to have, it's the feeling that you get when you help families. Just really providing that financial literacy, giving back to the community in many ways, but also in that way, bringing knowledgeable, concepts and tools that people can definitely use to be able to grow and live a more fulfilled life. That's my wife and I's goal. Her and I work together, and we have a beautiful daughter. She's 10 years of age. I swear she's a handful. It's only one, but she's a handful. I love her to death. And we're just we want to be those parents that definitely don't want to make the same mistakes that we probably saw growing up, or from other generations. We want to definitely do better by her and bring her with new tools, new concepts, things that have been around really for a long time, longer than we've probably all of us here been alive, but sadly haven't been taught. Like Silvia, like you said, things that we don't know. This is why we've been hurting financially. But other than work, my wife and I, when we're not, doing, consulting and helping families, we like to take, time off to, go on trips and vacation. Definitely do some bike rides, barbecues. We love barbecues, especially now with this weather. It's barbecue season. We love going to the city. So we definitely enjoy being from the community and for the community. And I'm excited to go ahead and talk about today's topic, which my wife and I, we don't just do, as financial professionals, we don't just handle debt, which is the topic we're going to talk about, but we also focus on everything that has to do with financial literacy, whether it's, how to get a higher rate of return than what you're getting at the bank, how to plan and prepare for retirement, right? How to have the right kind of life insurance, how to just, in general, be financially healthy. And on one of those topics today, we're going to talk about debt elimination. All right. So I'd love to go ahead and share my screen, get into details, and let's rock and roll here. Let me go. Oh,
I forgot to do that. Hold on a sec.
Is it?
There you go.
Okay, there we go. All right. Just wanted to go ahead and make sure we can share the screen here.
Yep.
Sorry about that, folks. All right. Let me go ahead and move this over to the side here. Let me select the right one because let's see. There we go. So today's topic, like we talked about, let me bring this up here, giving you guys a sneak peek. All right. So, yeah, that's right. So eliminate debt. All right. Now, check this out. I know this isn't the most attractive, definitely not the sexiest topic to talk about when it comes to anything that we talk about, right? Financial stuff is like, right? We don't like to hear that stuff. But I'm telling you guys, when it comes to this, we want to make sure we don't turn a deaf ear to this. Okay, let's listen up. Definitely encourage you guys to take some notes. Look at this video. For those of you guys looking at the recording, over and over, take some notes, pause if you have to, but anyway, when it comes to, the threats that we face in life, I know there's a lot of threats that we can come across, different risks, different challenges, but look, out of all the different threats that we face in life, and that's going to affect us financially, I should say, to our financial security, is none other than the notorious, and most dangerous one is debt when it's not used properly. All right, I want to emphasize when it's not used properly. Okay, so in every family, right, we're all looking for financial freedom. We're looking to be financially stable and healthy. But one of the most common enemies that we could have, right, in our finances is that debt. So who has debt? Out there, I know there's a lot of people that could definitely identify and been asking themselves, hey, how do I get rid of debt? I've been looking for ways, I've been strategizing, I've been reading into this, but I can't seem to defeat this enemy. I'm gonna give you guys the strategies on how to defeat this enemy and go into financial freedom. So there's two things we're gonna talk about. The bad news, but also the good news. Don't worry, I do have some good news for you guys. It's not all bad, right? We're gonna go ahead and leave dessert for the end, all right? So getting into it, we're gonna talk about compound interest. Excuse me. So compound interest, before we go into dissecting what debt does, and how it could, help or hurt, depending on what side of the spectrum you are, we have to really kind of dig a little deeper into the factor, right? What's deep down, and that's the interest on how the debt's going to obviously, whether hurt or help. Now, I like to say that compound interest is something that could either be our best friend or it could be our worst enemy. All right, and you guys will see as to why in a second. Now, we're looking at this here. Compound interest occurs when there's interest, right? These interests get added to the principal amount, right? Whatever that is, and that is whether it's an investment or it's a borrowed money, etc. But that interest rate applies to the new, right? Larger, most of the time, larger principal. So what's happening is essentially the interests are on top of interest. That's really what the best way to put it is, what's compound interest? That means interest on top of interest, right? So which over time, that could lead to exceptional growth, right? Growth in your debt or growth in your investment, right? That will they'll be determined by you. Now, when building savings or growing wealth, either way it goes, so this power will work in your favor. All right. Again, I'm going to say that again, it will work in your favor. It can work in your favor if you're using it correctly. But for the sake of this topic, we're going to talk about the not so favorable part so that we can be aware. All right. Let's start with the bad news. All right. I know bad news first. Now, one thing we want to go ahead and make sure is that, let's take a look at this. When it comes to having debt, this power works against you. Like I mentioned, it can work for you when you have, the right information, the right tools, how to know what you're doing. But this compounding interest upon interest upon interest upon interest is working against you, right? Now, the amount gets compounded again and again, making it easy to see a small debt literally grow large very, very quickly. A lot of times we may say, well, I only have $30, $50, $100 in that, as debt, nothing major. I got it. Yes, but if it starts to go on, we're not supervising that, we're not careful with it, that small debt can go out of control very, very quickly. We definitely don't want to do that. Now, each month, what's happening is that the new balance is the principal plus the interest. That's the bad news. Okay, because think about it. You go on the next month, you didn't take all that out. You didn't remove from the plate. Now you got the next plate coming in, and it's got more on top of it, plus what you have to finish. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to finish what I had last month, plus the new pile. And you see how this can start to, before you know it, you went from, looking down at your debt to looking like this to looking way up, like, oh, I got a mountain of debt, right? We definitely don't want to do that. Now, one thing that for sure we know as financial professionals, and what we've been coaching, is we have to really, it's not really that much of it's not rocket science. It's not something that's out of this world. It's really boils down to being able to have that self-awareness, right, and identify the needs versus the wants. Definitely have to make sure that we know what a necessity is versus what the wants are. A necessity would be, for example, like paying, buying groceries, right? For example, putting gas in the car, something like that. That's something that's a necessity, right? So obviously we have to drive, we got to eat. So if we have to put that on a, for example, on a credit card, something like that, we'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit more further in details on that, but it really comes down to it's neutral, right? So the credit could be used when you have points. It's a point system. That's fine. You might as well use that, towards your purchases, right? And if it's a necessity, yeah, go ahead and swipe. But if it's if it's a want, for example, like you go to Best Buy, you want that new 85-inch screen TV, right? That's for sure. Yeah, who wouldn't want that? Most people say, yeah, for sure, right? Absolutely. The games are going to be awesome. The fights, you have friends and family over. It's going to be amazing. But here's the thing with that: we have to ask ourselves three major questions, okay, that are really going to help us identify, okay, which side we're leaning towards. And then at that point, we're like, all right, we kind of give ourselves the guilt trip, like, oh man, let's do the right thing here. So number one, do I need to make this purchase, right? Do I need that $3,000 TV, for example, right? Do I need that? You gotta ask yourself, do I really need to make this purchase? Whatever that is. Okay, is it a need, right? You have to eat? Yes. Right? Do you have to watch TV on an 85-inch plasma? No, I would say that's more of a no, right? On the second thing here is, do I have the money to pay it off in full if I need to? Okay, so that's something that could be a little bit more, getting a little deeper there, because you might say, well, I kind of, because I get it. Sometimes we may need that, Starbucks. We may need the Starbucks, right? For example, right? So whatever purchase this is, I need it right now. I got to wake up. I got to get this done. Okay, fine. In this example, obviously, you can definitely pay off for Starbucks, but we're talking about a bigger purchase here, right? For example, do I have the money, if needed, to pay that off completely? Not like, oh, almost, not like, 99.99% of it. And then no, I'm talking about like, if need be, if you absolutely needed to free up some cash, you had to free yourself up from that debt because you had to do some other moves that required you to be debt free, from having those things under your belt. Could you do it? Could you free yourself up immediately like that? If the answer to this is yes, then go ahead. I mean, maybe you're leaning more towards that. Okay, fine. I have the money. I still want to go ahead and put that on my point system. I might as well, give myself that pleasure of buying what I wanted to buy, whether it's that TV in this example, right? And the third question here is this: will this purchase put me ahead, or will it put me behind in my finances? Look, we're not going to sit here and point the fingers, right? We're all human. We definitely fall in at some point, one shape or form, we fall in these categories of, we're deciding. We're also like, oh, when we go to the store, we see this, we see that, we want it, right? Do I need it? Do I have the money to pay it off in full? And at this point, we must think or ask ourselves, like, is it going to put me ahead financially, or is it going to put me behind financially? Now, you definitely want to ask yourself, do you have, well, not ask yourself, but realize, is there other goals that you have? Maybe you and your spouse, or you as as an individual, have other goals and dreams and aspirations that require for you to be financially free at a certain point, or there's other things that are more important than having that 85-inch plasma, right? So just kind of put that in perspective. You got goals. Have that discipline. Look, right, my goal, stay laser focused on the goal to hit that goal and not get distracted with these side temptations. All right. Let's take a look at this. Did you guys know that making a one-time $3,000 purchase with no new purchases, okay? And if you make the minimum payments like most people do, right, just the bare minimum, right? Some people send a little extra, which we'll talk about in a second. But in this example, sending the minimum payments, and this would take about 10 years, right, to pay off the debt. And it would end up paying, or in this example, costing that person over $2,000 in interest. Think about that for a second, right? You made that $3,000 purchase thinking, well, $3,000, it's fine, it's all good, I'll pay it off. But we're forgetting though, the interest on top of that, right? So it's that suddenly that $3,000 purchase is now $5,000 purchase. And so remember the key questions: is it going to put me ahead in my finances, or is it going to put me behind financially? $2,000, right? You might think, wow, I didn't look at it that way. Exactly. We don't think, we just kind of swipe away, and then boom, now we're kind of left with the ramifications of what comes afterwards, right? But think about this. Look, if $2,000 is not a big deal to you, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna put my my bank info. You guys can send me that $2,000. Right? Totally kidding, obviously. But you guys get my point. Is value that. That $2,000 could be, excuse me, that could be a couple of I don't know, a couple of trips to maybe to the beach, and maybe you want to go out on a small vacation, or maybe that big vacation, contribute to that. Something that's going to maybe fulfill you a bit more, or maybe even just maybe putting that towards your kids' college. Or perhaps spending more time, right? Rather than giving away those $2,000 back into whatever institution is charging you that, right? Basically, maybe use that, use that money. Like, hey, you know what? If you're gonna spend that money, then at least spend it with something that's, maybe build memories, right? Take a couple of trips, hang out, go on a couple of dates, right, with your spouse. Who knows, right? Get creative. But for sure, this is something that you don't want to just give money away just to give it away. If you're gonna have it, if you're gonna go spend it, make sure it's for you at least, right? At the very least, for sure. Let's go ahead and kind of look at this, this side of the spectrum when it comes to debt. There's two things here. There's something called out of control debt, and then there's something called in control debt. What does this even mean? Most people would say, well, isn't it the same thing, kind of, right? Well, not exactly. Out of control debt is when we don't have a definite payoff date. There's no limit, there's no amount. We were really not even sure what's going to happen there. It could be far out in the future. We don't even know. It's out of control, right? It's taken a lot of financial, stress from us, and it's really hurting. That's when we know it's out of control. There's no definite payoff date. That's the major key right there. No definite payoff date. In control debt is when you have something more, I would say at least a definite payoff date. When the day that will be, that you will be for sure completely off that debt, for sure. It's not like a maybe. No, it's because that would still fall out of control. You want to make sure that you're in control of your debt at that point, knowing, yes, I know exactly I can tell you the exact day, maybe not the time, but for sure the day of when I'm going to be debt free, and that's good, right? So we're going to talk about that, but think about this. One of the things that we see is that most people are in out of control debt, which is causing a lot of financial stress, right? A lot of stress comes into that. Now, the number one thing that's causing, is responsible for illnesses in our bodies, right? Is due to stress. We cause ourselves a lot of the times because we're the ones caused because of the stress that we have, right, from life. But where is the majority of this stress coming from? You guessed it. It's finances, right? Financial stress is the number one thing. Money, the thought of money. Oh, do I have enough for this? I got to make these payments? I got this. It starts to go out of control, and that's causing stress, which is causing more health problems. And we want to make sure that, obviously, isn't that crazy how we would say, wow, who would have thought that our health, right, depended on being financially literate, right? Being financially educated, knowing what to do, right? For example, I want to show you guys the two types of debt. We looked at in control, out of control, but in more, kind of going in a little bit deeper, there's two types of, I guess, that with interest. We could kind of go in a little bit more, that interest or debt, revolving debt, and there's fixed debt. Now, when it comes to revolving debt, credit card debt is what's known as revolving debt. Because again, it's every month it's a scratch and you start all over. Scratch, new page, start all over. Since revolving, it keeps on going. Remember those, we talked about that compound interest. So when you have debt, right, those compound interests it's working against us, because we're piling the previous month with interest, and then the next month with interest, and then it's just to just pile up. It's working against us. Rather than if we have investments, things like that, it could work for us. Now, interest compounds daily instead of monthly. I want y'all to definitely make a note of that, right? Which means you may end up paying more in interest, okay, if that's the case. Because if it's compounding daily, think about that for a second. Wouldn't you rather, want to have your money growing for you daily than your debt growing against you daily. Now that's, think about that for a second, way deeper when you really get into like, oh wow, yeah, I could have my money growing, on a daily basis, right? For example, versus my debt growing against me, that's for sure. But look at this though. Not having a fixed interest though, this is what's key here. We'll talk a little more on the next slide, but having a fixed interest can essentially make your debt go on forever, right? Because the interest is constantly changing, risking your payments to go more towards the interest and very little towards the principal. So what's happening here is that we're sending out X amount of payment monthly, and so because it's not a fixed debt or a fixed interest, that could be up and down, up and down. One month we pay exaggerated crazy interest, where the other one's kind of more like, all right, that's tolerable, right? But you never know. You definitely never know. So most of the time your payments are going towards those interests and you're barely scratching the principal. You might be thinking, well, what's wrong with that? Well, you want to get rid of your debt as fast as you can, don't you? That principal needs to get eliminated. And that's not going to happen if we have a fixed interest and we're just basically paying off interest that could go on forever, like I mentioned. Now, making sure that you have that fixed interest for sure, it's going to help you avoid, number one, less interest. Notice I didn't say it's going to help you avoid interest totally. That doesn't really happen unless there's a cash. You buy something in cash, right? Maybe buy a car in cash, something in cash. There's no interest on that, right? You just buy it, that's it, right? But for the most part, if you're gonna, buy something on installments, there's gonna be some interest for sure. So don't try to don't think that it's figure out how to avoid completely. Just know that you're getting yourself into that when you're making those payments. But overall, now that constant fluctuation of interest is going to obviously, I would say, put anybody behind a little bit more, but there's no definite payoff date, because you're thinking, well, 1 month I'm paying this, next month I'm paying that. I don't know, 5 years from now, who knows where I'm going to be with that debt? You definitely don't want to be there. You want to make sure you have okay, in 5 years, boom, this debt is gone. I can count on that for sure. I'm moving on to the next thing because I know that will be off my plate at that time. Now, revolving debt, still the next part, the second part regarding the revolving debt versus fixed debt. Let's take a look at this example here. If we look at revolving debt, how that can really, affect us financially. The top part is an example we have. Let's just say, we have a $17,000 loan on this at an 18%, paying $595 a month. Okay. So at first we think, man, that was in my budget. Okay. And it might have been in the budget for sure. $595, great. But with the revolving debt, that had grown to $12,500. Think about how insane that is, right? Think about that. With interest paid $12,000 in just interest. You all, that's literally, I mean, think of the renovation you can do in your house. Think of, for example, the that dream vacation you were talking about, maybe going to France, I don't know, or, maybe doing something extraordinary. I don't know, that money is yours, but it's been kind of given away, right? So 17 years to pay off this debt because of that revolving. Now, if we have a fixed debt, totally different. There, same example here, 17,000 at 18%, same $595 a month. Now with the fixed debt, that fixed interest, okay, for sure, it's where it's at. That interest, $5,370, right? Not bad compared to 12 grand, right? For sure, you pay that off in the next 3 years, and you're done, right? You know that you can move on to the next project, perhaps, whatever next goal you have, or, whatever you want to cross off on your bucket list, on your agenda, you have that. It's easier to plan. It's easier to plan when you have a target, right? It's easier to hit something when you have a target. Let me put it that way, actually, because think about it. Imagine if I put a blindfold over you, right? And I put a target very near. It's almost like you can touch it. And if you throw a dart, right, the odds of hitting the target, right, the bullseye, it's going to be difficult to hit the bullseye because we're blindfolded, right? We don't have that definite, that vision, compared to if we don't have that, we don't have that blindfold. Think of it that way. We have that, that vision, and we can, okay, great. I can hit the bullseye because I know where I need to hit, right? What I need to focus on. So that's very, very important. But I definitely want to go ahead, like I mentioned, right? I want you guys to think that it was all bad news, right? Let's talk about the good news, right? Because there are good news, all right? Let's take a look at this. You can go ahead and become debt-free and yes, financially independent or have that financial freedom. I think that most people today, most people are definitely looking towards a way to get closer to becoming financially independent, financially free. I really haven't met anyone that says, you know what, I like being in debt. I enjoy being super stressed. I've never met anyone like that. If you know someone, let me know. I can shake their hand and be like, wow, right? I've never met someone like that. And so because of this, I think of it this way, right? We have this, think of having the smoke or living in a house full of smoke, right? For example, when you're living in a house full of smoke, we all know it'd be impossible to live. We'd be suffocating. Couldn't live there. So obviously we want to make sure that we have strategies on how to eliminate the debt, right? How to eliminate that smoke. Our job is to go ahead and put this in practice so that smoke doesn't get trapped inside the house and we can, we're able to breathe again in our finances. So let's go ahead and take a look at this strategy and how to eliminate debt, faster, and also how to avoid paying, thousands of dollars in interest. So this is a very interesting concept here. It's called debt stacking. All right. Now with this concept here, let's take a look at, for example, this person here is age 35. They have a couple of, that's some debt. They got the retail card, right? Let's call that, Target or something, JCPenney, I don't know. Credit card number 1, credit card number 2. You see the car loan in there, the mortgage. So there are things here that we can notice right off the bat that they may be a little bit out of order sometimes, right? Depending. But this is why this is very important to have a financial kind of like an analysis, so to speak, an evaluation to see how our debt is kind of stacked, whatever it is we got going on. And that way, this analysis is great software to use. And then so we use this to be able to go ahead and identify which I would say which loan or which target debt to be able to hit and tackle that one first, depending on the interest rate, depending which one's going to hurt us, the most, the quickest. We take a look at that. But for the sake of this example, let's kind of roll with this here. So we look at this person, they're spending about $2,720 a month on their expenses, right? Including their debt, obviously. So we see that they're making their payments, et cetera, et cetera. Most people think that, oh, well, I'm making my payments and, maybe it's a little extra here, a little bit extra there. I'm going to be debt free pretty soon by sending extra. That's not always the case. In most cases, we're really not advancing. We're not getting ahead quick enough by doing that a little here, a little bit there. Let's take a look at this example. This debt we paid off in the next 23 years. So this person, age 35, now being debt free at age 58. But see, you might think, well, I'm 58. I can live with that. Good. All right. But can you live with this though? Paying over $214,000 in interest? That is the part that, I don't know, if you ask me, I couldn't live with that. Knowing that I gave my money away. I was literally, I gave away $200,000. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm all about giving, right? And giving back. But to a cause, I'm not going to give this back to creditors, right? That's for sure. To these big institutions that they took my money, right? I'm going to give back. I'm going to give back to the community. I'm going to give back to help others. But going, kind of focusing on this here, think about this. Those $200,000 could have been used again for so many things, right? For sure, add that to your retirement. I don't know. That's a great idea. Paying off kids' college for sure, right? Or building that generational wealth. There's things that could be done when you have the right resources instead of giving them away. So we look at this here, with plan B, kind of the other side of the coin here. If this person decided to do this strategy of debt stacking, very carefully, we're going to strategize. Let's just say that, this person, retail card number 1 was eliminated. They're sending their payment to $220 every month. Okay. Now, rather than just saying, hey, I'm free $220, let's go out and spend more, right? Not exactly. Let's go ahead and pretend like we still have that payment. Okay, let's we have to use discipline here to become financially independent, to have that financial freedom. We have to definitely incorporate some discipline, and also a nice healthy balance of knowledge. So we're looking at to get this, get the ball rolling here, get it stacking. 220, now we're free of that, but add it to credit card number 2, which used to be 353. That's what it used to be. But now we're going to be sending 573 because we're including the 220 previously from the debt that we just eliminated, right? So that's good because we're done with credit card number 1. We're also going to be done with credit card number 2 quickly since we're sending more. Now let's go to the car loan, right? We got that, nice card note there, 551 every month. Okay. So instead of sending 551, guess what? Now we're sending 551 plus 573 from the 2, credit cards that we already had eliminated, which now gives us a total of $1,124 that we're sending to that car payment. Think about how fast we're going to eliminate this car note. All right. The interest already that we're already getting rid of, by the way, that we're already avoiding by sending, just getting rid of this faster. Okay. Now we're done with the car payment. Boom. Now let's go to credit card. The other credit card that we got going on here is 303 on that particular one. So we're going to be sending 303 plus the 1124 that we were already, remember we got that money. It's already freed up, right? It's not new money. It's the same money. It's the same money, y'all. You guys can see at the bottom, it's to 2720 has been happening. It's been staying consistent because we're using the same money, just finding a way to redirect it. That's all we're doing here. Okay. Now we got 1427 is the new payment that we're sending the credit card to that credit card number 1 that shows there. We're going to get rid of that bad boy fast. Okay. Finally, we're down to our mortgage. Woohoo, right? We're getting down to that. 1293 a month for that mortgage. Great. Plus, we're sending that 1427, remember, that we're freed up with. Total is 2720. Isn't that awesome? Isn't that awesome how we're using the exact same money, right? Exact same money, just strategizing to be able to redirect it and use it wisely to get, obviously, debt-free a lot faster. How fast? Well, in this particular example, right, we're looking at 14 years sooner. In the next 9 years, right, this person would be 44, right, age 44. So that's obviously giving them that 14-year advantage instead of being 58, all right? Think of this, though. The interest that have been avoided by, using this strategy here, this concept, right, over $130,000 in interest that, goes back into your pocket. Think about that for a second. That is a huge, huge difference, y'all. Very, and I get it. There's some interest that were paid. That's for sure. Right? Obviously, we know, like I mentioned, we can't avoid completely everything, but 130,000, I'll take it, right? For sure. Now, what can we do, right? Once we are debt free sooner, what could we do? There's a lot of things, right? I mean, if you wanted to, you could really set yourself, decades ahead, right? Let's take a look at this. We got 2720 that we're now, completely free. There's any new debt that has been accumulated, right? For example, if we continue to put that 2720, thinking in our minds, all right, I'm going to go ahead and pretend as if I was, spending that money, but except I'm going to pay myself first, kind of deal with, think of it that way, pay yourself first. And so put that towards something that's going to grow with interest, right? On your favor though, right? Remember, on your favor with compound interest, let's say you're getting a average of 9% rate of return. In this example, from age 44 to age 67, 2720 would grow to about $2.4 million, right? For retirement. Now that is what I call retiring with dignity. Because think about it, we wouldn't want to retire, right? And then 5 or 10 years later, go work at a part-time somewhere, right? And that's not retirement. We want to definitely make sure that we're going to go ahead and retire. Well, if we could retire sooner, great, right? But if we're going to start on time, right, at a time that you've in your heart decided already, let's go ahead and make that happen. But make sure that you have enough money to retire, right? And now you're living, your dream. You're obviously having more time for yourself, more time for your family. At that point, there's nothing else you should be worrying about except really enjoying your retirement years, right? Now, to wrap this up, I want to go ahead and definitely share some important, things on credit card, right? The five most common credit card mistakes here that we notice, and we want to take a look at this because it's super. I'm trust me when I tell you this, that people do say good things and bad things about credit cards, right? But in reality, I want to share this with you. Credit cards are neutral. All right. And let me tell you why before I kind of touch base on this. They are neutral, right? In the sense that they could be used obviously for your benefit. Kind of, we talked a little bit earlier, using it for maybe for a point system, right? You have that, that cash, you're building up that, the points, and you getting cash back, or perhaps, building up credit, little things like that. But let's take a look at this one here. This is the first common mistake: not valuing your credit. Ooh, I'm telling you, look, good credit is valuable, is a very valuable commodity, right? In today's world, we need it for, pretty much, I would say almost, I would say big things that could make a difference, right? That car you want, that house you're looking to do, that loan you're trying to get. I mean, credit, they're trying to see, hey, how responsible are you, right? So bad credit, including a bad credit record, late payments, all that stuff could create negative financial profiles. And we definitely don't want that, guys. Trust me, that will surface up, and we don't want that. So you want to make sure that you value your credit. You don't take that for granted, and take care of it, right? Take care of that for sure, right? Number two, raising credit card limits. Guilty, right? A lot of times people would say, hey, I already paid that off, I'm good. Bank says, all right, looks like you can handle some more stuff. We're gonna put some more on you. Let's give you another $2,000. You're thinking, woo, nice. Now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go crazy with this. I'm just gonna drop a pretty penny. Hey, look, raising those credit card limits, guys, could be a potential, right? Potential, because I know some of you have good great discipline. But think about this: we're kind of playing with fire there, right? We're dancing around the temptation line. All right, we're sitting on the fence there, because now we're in the path of potential, out of control that we talked about earlier. Because now we're raising the stakes, we're raising the credit limits, and now we're, suddenly went from 2 to 4 to 6 to 8, and now we're like, how did I get to 20 grand in debt? It all started with those raises, right? Those raises, very, very important, right? So we definitely want to make sure that we avoid raising our limits. And if you don't need it, guys, look, chances are you've been using your credit card for more than an emergency. So just keep it at a nice neutral state, in something that's going to be, healthy for you and your family, right? Number 3, not monitoring your credit history. This is a big one. Look, you definitely want to know where you stand with your credit, right? Lenders, prospective employers get a snapshot of our credit, our debt payments, all of our history. That comes up right in the credit report. And it's very important to know that, what they are looking at too, because they might, that, believe it or not, I don't know if you guys knew this, but this could also determine that job you've been wanting, right? That position that's open. They look at the credit report, right? Bunch of things that they look at, like, oh, responsible level. We're trying to see here how is this person being responsible. They kind of in a way, judge our what we call it, our judgment. That's what they're doing. They're judging our judgment, how we make decisions, things like that. So those are things that are definitely important to know. Is monitor your credit history. Take a look every once in a while. once or twice a year. Obviously, if you're making, other bigger moves in purchasing a home, things like that, you might want to, definitely talk to your lender with that, or your realtor. But for the most part, once you're nice and settled and, kind of established, every now and then take a look, see what's going on. Number 4, not monitoring your credit, which kind of brings me to this, right? You want to make sure that you stay in good standing. All these things could be determined, right? I would say that, for example, the interest rates that you get on something else that you want to buy, right, in the future. Right, maybe that car. Again, let's use that as an example, right? That car, or maybe you want to renovate your home and you want to take out a loan. Poor credit, you weren't monitoring it, right? That was taking a dip from something else that you didn't notice. It's been years since you looked at your last credit history, things like that, and now you go out and take a loan, and you're happy to be able to work on this new project, but you're at a surprise that it's not where you thought it was going to be, and then again, the stress comes out. You see where I'm going with this, the health, and you know what I'm saying? So we want to make sure that we avoid that common mistake. And number 5 here to wrap up, not knowing your interest rate and fees, super important. Even though you have a good credit, even though you've already monitored it, even though you didn't raise your limits, you still want to make sure that when you go ahead and you take out that loan, or you go ahead and you make that, whatever it is that you're doing, that's going to obviously, potentially could affect you financially. One thing you want to make sure is you want to look at the fees that vary widely among cards, right? Not every credit card is the same. I want you to know that. I know it takes some time to read that stuff, but It does make a difference, you all. Trust me, read those fine prints before you will go and apply. They've made it easier now. These banks have gone and boop, 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 go ahead and you can apply on your phone and you've been approved quickly, right? Pre-approved, and they'll send it to you fast, right? You want to make sure you take the time to scroll and read through that. Take some time. Believe me, it's gonna make a difference in your life. Always make sure that you know what the interests are, what the annual rates are, what you're gonna be paying, because you don't want to be, again, caught off guard and accept those credit card terms, and all of a sudden, you know, you went from like, oh, I thought it was going to be no interest for X amount. All of a sudden, bam, you didn't read that. And now, you know, on your next purchase, you're paying 26% interest. You're like, what? 30%. You're like, what? So you want to make sure, again, you take a look at that and you know what you're getting yourself into. All right, you all. So I want to thank you guys for this time. Let me go ahead and I want to use this time for any questions. Anybody that has any questions, you guys can definitely go ahead and, take time to chat. I don't know if we have anybody on the chat here, Silvia. You're mute.
You would think after a pandemic of Zoom, you would, I know that. Yeah, if you can just unshare that so we can see you. Yeah, I think great, great information. I'm glad it's a lot of information, so I'm glad we have it recorded so that people could go back to it over and over again. And I like what you were talking about with the credit cards, of them being neutral. We find in real estate, we find that when we send somebody to a lender, they're going to ask, how is your credit, and what are you doing with your credit cards, and sometimes there's different philosophies on credit cards, and I respect everybody's opinion on it. I like that you're saying it's neutral, because in the world that I move in real estate, unless you have cash to pay for the house in full, you're going to need some credit, and your credit comes from things like managing credit cards well.
Right.
And sometimes people don't have any credit cards, and they don't have any other situations where they're paying for a loan or anything like that. So their credit is zero, and at zero credit, people can't get a loan to buy a house. So they need to start with all of that process. And speaking of process, I do have a question for you. And that I've heard that when kids are starting out, right? And we're talking about generational wealth, and and we're going to be talking about that more next month. But one of the ways that people help their kids is by providing them with a credit card that's under the parent's name and under the kid's name, because their credit score goes up when they're able to start building their credit, and when part of the credit of the parent, if they have a good credit score, right, transfers over to their kid. Can you speak a little bit about that? And do you think that's a good idea, or how does that work?
Absolutely, yeah. So looking at that, when we have the opportunity to be able to, let's just say, and like you said, Sylvia, it's very important that we notice and we're aware, guys, if we have a great credit, and we definitely know that we've been keeping that up, and we're responsible with that, then definitely for sure, got a teenager that's already at a part-time, and you see they're responsible, go ahead and put them on that process of building their credit already, and whatever they do will affect, and vice versa, right, for sure. And so if you have a bad credit, definitely I would not encourage anyone to put their kids on it, because whatever you have will reflect automatically on that child. And by the time they're 18, they want to do something with their life, they're going to be like, well, what's going on here, right? And so definitely for sure. But to that point, though, Sylvia, yes, for sure, it could be a tremendous help, because think about this, now, I would say maybe 20, 30 years ago, most people that were purchasing homes weren't 18, 19, 20-year-olds. Right, 21-year-olds, 22-year-olds, but now we can go ahead and make sure that these younger generation are able to partake and to benefit, reap the rewards from being homeowners, right, at such a young age already. So that really helps when they get sent to obviously a loan officer, or check their credit and be like, oh, you got zero, instead of being 22 and then waiting another X amount of years to imagine that 22-year-old already ready to rock and roll. They can go ahead and submit that and be homeowners. Fantastic. I definitely would encourage that under, again, like I said, supervision and good strategies for sure.
Great. That's great. So by 2030, Latinos will be the highest population in the US. And we want to be able to prepare our community to be in a good position to make good decisions, to retire well, to have their homes, to invest in things. If someone wants to get in touch with you, what we will provide that information. We will provide it, and this will be on YouTube. This is on YouTube. Information is down below. It'll be your information. It'll be our information. But let me ask you this: what can you do for someone? Why would someone want to reach out to you?
Hey, honestly, I would definitely encourage someone to take a look, and not so much with the intent to like, oh, well, man, right away, the first thing we think about sitting down with a financial professional, we think, oh, am I going to get charged $1,000 for, something I already know? That's not the point. Me as a financial coach, my wife and I, we've been doing this for many years now. And both my wife and I, we come from, middle class, and, we would have wished, I know from speaking for myself that I would have wished for someone, growing up when I was a kid, someone sat down with my parents and was able to, at least give them financial solutions and strategies free of charge. The consultation that's going to charge them $1,000 or $3,000 or whatever, because remember, we come from a stream where we want the help, but we're scared and we don't reach out because of that. So I don't want you guys to be afraid to let that stop, because I charge absolutely zero. All my consultations are complimentary. I definitely am proud to say that. Both my wife and I were very, very proud to say that, that we're here to help the community. We're here to provide solutions and strategies, and don't have to worry about, there's an obligation, there's a commitment to it, nothing like that. Take some time, reach out. You can ask about, I would love to sit down, to give you guys a complimentary analysis, something where you can get some information on whether it's debt elimination, perhaps on how to retire sooner, maybe how to put together a strategy on protecting your income, right? The do's and don'ts on life insurance, how to acquire the right type, how to have a will, right? Legal protection, things like that. Things that everything that has to do with financial, the financial topic under that umbrella. Definitely feel free to reach out. I will go ahead, like Sylvia said, there's a contact information will be on there, but I'll give you also guys my number. Will be 779-220-1248. You guys can reach out to me. That's my direct number. My name is Erick, 779-220-1248. And again, I would love to go ahead and speak to you guys. Don't let that stop you. And then from there, I'll pass it back to Sylvia. If anything else.
Thank you. Thanks, Erick. Thank you for taking the time. I do want to acknowledge that Jimena is on our call right now. And I think she was driving, or she was busy with other things. She was listening in. Thank you, Jimena, also for what you do. Really appreciate the two of you. Next month, we will be talking with Emmy Morales. She is an attorney that works with us in real estate. She's a real estate attorney, and she will be talking about generational wealth, a little bit more about what you're talking about. She's an attorney though, and you're a financial advisor. So I love that between all of us, we are here to help our community. So appreciate you guys, appreciate what you do. Thank you so much for your time. And again, for those of you listening, please reach out. They don't charge for consultation, and information is free. And the information can really make the difference in how we live our lives and the quality of our life and the dream that we have for our families. So thank you so much, and have a good night.
Thank you, Sylvia, so much. Thanks to Arturo as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.